and gentlemen, we are the Rum Regret podcast. I am Andy Drake.
Johanna Myers.
Nate Tussey, and we drink and we know things.
It is Monday, June 2nd. It has been a while since we've recorded. Our own Joe had to level up. Joe, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, and it's been a while.
It's been a while.
And of course, that deep laugh that you hear is our famed guest, our recurring guest, the only one that we seem to invite on the podcast these days, Mr. Steve Polivka. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you for inviting me once again. It's a pleasure, as always, to be here.
Yeah, Mr. Stoop. Wah, 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 wah. So I know there's a mustachioed adjective. Is there? What's the adjective for a fancy adjective for somebody with a luxurious beard?
I think it's beardier than a bearded pile of beards.
Perfect. I couldn't have said it any better myself. Yeah. Welcome back.
Yeah.
We need to get you the SNL jacket with like a Velcro patch. We can
That's
keep
right.
changing the number on.
The gold. What I don't know. What are you, like, seven
The
guests?
seven-timer,
Yeah, right.
seven-time host
Right.
club. You and Steve Martin.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's right.
Nice.
So we are, since we've last met, The Last of Us has finished its second season, and that is what we're going to focus on today. Steve has come very prepared and has a lot of thoughts, and is our sort of resident expert on The Last of Us, since he has played the game up until the point of you've played it before, but you replayed it up until where the season ends, right?
Oh, yeah, no, I have almost 100% on the achievements for Last of Us 2.
Well,
Jesus
there you
H.
go.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm intimately familiar with the game.
So Steve is
The
our
math
expert
checks
witness on The Last of Us here, and we'll run through his thoughts. But first, let's give sort of general thoughts on where we thought this season sort of ended up and what it set up for the next season. As we know, it is getting a season 3, and where we are. So, Joe, I would love to get your thoughts on where you felt this season. What were your general thoughts on this season anyway?
General thoughts. So, as I've said before, I have no game knowledge. I'm not a PlayStation girl, so I don't get to play
That's
Last
right.
of Us. So, I
taken.
had no idea even what it was about.
Right.
So, I'm going into this completely clean.
Yeah.
And, it's so heartfelt. Like,
Right.
I'm just like, you're breaking my heart every time. And such feels. This show's so good. It's so good.
What did you call the two girls? What was their?
My tactical lesbians.
Right. Yes.
I love my tactical lesbians.
Right.
So, yeah, I am thoroughly enjoying this show.
Nice.
I'm really interested to hear Steve's thoughts, because I have a feeling I'm going to have a similar rant if and when I ever get a BioShock adaptation.
Oh, sure.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
100%.
I can
no way they
definitely
land that
feel
show.
the "you did my game wrong" aspect. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, as a show, not knowing the context, I think it's awesome.
Right.
What would you rate the season out of 10 if you had to rate it? Compared to the first one. Keep in mind the first season exists.
Yeah, the first season I would say is better. The second season is still good, and I would say if like the first season's a 9, this one's an 8.
Okay.
Because man, my heart.
Yeah.
There were a lot of points where I was just like, the feels.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All right.
so that's my
Okay.
my goofy rundown.
Nate, give me your thoughts on this season.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to ping. Oh, she did send it to me. Addie sent me notes.
Oh, nice.
She was going to join us, but she's working on final stuff.
Oh,
so,
yeah, very important.
She made the decision on her own to send me some notes, and
Good for her.
she actually used Google Keep with checkboxes. Wow, that's scary.
Look
Okay,
at her.
Nice.
good job, kiddo. Good job. Yeah. So just to preface this, I've talked about this every time we've brought up The Last of Us on the pod, where I didn't play the first game, watched the first season with my then 14-year-old. When did that come out?
Yeah.
It was too early. It was too soon, and it was a bad choice.
Yeah.
However, we watched it together, and it was crazy, and it was a bonding experience. And after we finished the first season, I went back and played the game finally, because I had the remastered version forever.
Yeah.
on deck, basically waiting. And while I was getting ready to play that, they released the second game, the remastered update for $10, and I grabbed that real quick to stow away for later, and kind of promised Addie that I wouldn't play it, the second one, until we watched the show.
Nice.
Because that's how we experienced the first one, and it was just a great bonding experience and fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that being said, season 1 was a fucking 10 for me. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
As far as the show goes. The game is like a 15. If you're going to try and put it on the same scale. It's so good. But at least the first season really kind of paid homage to the original material of the game and then kind of expanded it in key parts.
Yeah.
You know, like with the tactical gaze.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that whole episode was just stunning and award-winning, and, you know, Nick Offerman stretched his legs in many facets in that episode, and it was just amazing from soup to nuts, and no pun intended, but he did make soup. So, all that being the preamble to season 2. Again, enjoying this show with Addie, all the feels, like Joe was saying. We both cried a lot. I did get the big kind of reveal spoiled, because it was spoiled out of love, because I had some really good friends, Steve included, one of those people. Were like, you should watch this part. You should play the game to this part to make sure it's okay for Addie to watch. And at the same time, I was like, okay. I don't know how I had dodged spoilers. I had dodged the big thing, you know, that Joel dies early.
Right.
You know, the Ned Stark of it all. That I had avoided that for so long. I had no idea how that happened. But did play the game to that point and was like, fuck.
Yeah.
This is going to crush her. And it did. She cried for 15 minutes. She was just sobbing.
Yeah.
That was so hard.
Yeah, it was really tough. And I think that's actually her first note.
Oh, yeah.
Joel's death hit me real hard. Yeah. Music store singing got me, which was super cute, with the Take On Me, which is right out of the game, because we played that immediately after the season ended and got to that point. I think that's where I stopped.
Okay.
I'll come back to the rest of these notes. Let's see. I put acting is epic across the board in season 2. The writing and the pacing seemed off. So I think Bella Ramsey is an amazing actress and is getting so much hate because of the way she looks, which is the dumbest take in the history of dumb takes. It's a video game character, first of all. It doesn't have to look like the person. It's a fictional character, so fuck off. And you're just hating her because the other character looks more like Ellie, which is kind of hilarious. I think the writing kind of failed her a little bit. She doesn't seem like she grew at all from season 1 to season 2.
Right.
They made her kind of dumb. I feel like reckless. She's reckless and she's supposed to be, but that doesn't equal stupid.
Yeah.
In my book, Dina steals every scene that she's in the show.
Oh,
Isabella
yeah.
Merced is fucking epic, and I can't get the Dora the Explorer connection out of my head every time she pulls out a map or
Right.
says, get your boots or your backpack. Like, bienvenidos.
Right.
Can you say clicker? Like, it can't. Yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah,
Clicker,
she
no
steals
clicking.
every scene that she's in. It's like Dina is the main character in this season, and Ellie is the sidekick.
Right.
And just seems like the way it's written, it's weird. Like, all of those great lines and great scenes should have gone to Ellie, right?
Yeah.
But Dina gets them for some reason. Maybe that's foreshadowing. I don't know. I did like the way that it ended, and apparently it's right out of the game where, you know, you're switching perspectives, which is cool, but I think it's going to suffer because in the game you don't know why she killed Joel, right? Until, like, the end.
Yeah.
And I think Steve will talk more about that. But that's the only reason
Oh,
I
yeah.
know about it
Right.
is because of him.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be, like, the whiplash from season 2. For like, season 1 was fantastic. Season 2, I rated it like a 7 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I loved it. Experiencing with Addie, I got to kind of pull that back a little bit for the actual quality of it.
Right.
The whiplash between those seasons are going to fade because it's going to take so long for season 3. Like, now they're talking about they need 4 seasons to play out this game.
Sure.
So, yeah, man, they need to make both of those concurrently if they're going to do this.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's no excuse. The first season was so successful. Why the fuck weren't you guys prepared to back this thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, overall, I loved watching it with Addie, and I can't wait to play more of the game. Addie has told me I am not allowed to play it without her.
Nice.
So
That's great.
we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's my
Okay.
long form 2 cents.
No, I agree with everything that was said so far. I feel that I do think that I would agree with you that the writing was wasn't as on par as it was for season 1. I do think that where they paired or where they put the flashback episode with Joel was a little misplaced. I feel like they probably could have told this story, I mean, in a way chronologically,
opened with
and
it,
literally opened with that, just to see that everything wasn't all crazy. Sorry, you might get some Fortnite rage in the background here. With Xander.
It's all right. That was me and Elden Ring
Yeah.
for the last 2 days straight.
So I do, and then as the season went on, and we ended up getting sort of Ellie's revenge tour in Seattle, right? It was hard for me to get behind sort of what she was doing, and I found myself. I hate to say this, I can't believe I'm making this connection. I found myself in Acolyte territory, where I didn't know. Like, I'm trying to find a good person to root for, right? I'm trying to find someone that I need to get behind, and the only reason why I'm behind Ellie is because I was with her through the first season. Right.
It's because of the connection with Joel and the struggle and all that.
I mean,
right? Yeah, I think that's the point of the game, though. Too, right? There isn't a clear antagonist. Everyone's
we've all grown up.
Equally bad.
We've all grown up. We've all gone through the teenage years. We've all done dumb, stupid shit that we wish we could take back. Right?
Killing somebody's dad on that list.
No, I get it. Trust me, I get it. But there are character motivations that I feel should have been maybe explored more and a little deeper, since you're breaking down this particular story arc over now 3 seasons that we might get, right? I feel like they probably could have taken some time. Like, I'm gonna just pick on a couple things, then we can get to Steve. But so there was the Abby. Abby obviously gets saved by Joel before they get taken up to the lodge. I feel like that maybe could have factored a little more into maybe the group's reaction to Joel, versus I know at this point she's there and she's like in it and like she's probably not going to stop, but I would have been, if I was with her group, I'm like, you found Joel. How did you find Joel? Oh, he saved me from a bunch of the infected, right? He saved you? Like, you
that might be a point in his corner.
You wouldn't be here if he didn't help?
Yeah, he killed her father and everyone in that building, though.
But, no,
and
but I get
waiting
that.
for 5 years
like
to
I said,
get to him. So.
I do understand that. Don't get me wrong.
that,
Like, I understand that, but at the same time,
yeah, I hear you.
I wish it would have, like, I wish there was just a little bit of, like, the moral conundrum there, right?
I mean, he says it, too. He's like, I saved your life. And she's like, what life?
Well,
maybe kill him
me.
mercifully and not bludgeon him to death.
and that's the funny thing, too, is that Ellie is having a different reaction to Joel for the same sort of thing. Like, Joel can't win, right? No matter what he does, right? So during the revenge tour, right, we get there's a lot of stuff that Ellie does that you're just like, stop. Just stop. And even Dina says, all right, we're going back. Which, what I forget, dude, in the second episode
Jesse.
saying, okay, yeah, it's time to leave. It's time to go back. Right?
Jesse.
Yeah.
Jesse,
thank you. And so we see now their group having a similar, right, with Dina saying, okay, yeah, you should have told me this. We need to leave. We need to get out of here. But obviously it's too late at this point. So, so again, having sort of been on Ellie with her journey through season 1, now in season 2, she's done some messed up stuff, and it's hard to kind of root for her. So, which I am excited to see what Abby's story is, because obviously now we're going to get those 3 days from her perspective, right? And
when she gets captured by the Seraphites and everything,
yeah,
she's got that hanging bruise around her neck.
Right. So I'm very excited to see what that story is and where that goes. So yeah, it's I would say, but again, I was gripped from start to finish. Right. Yeah. I was totally on the journey. I the gunshot at the end to Black, I was like, ah, that's it, right? So, no, I think, Nate, I'm right with you. I think this is a 7.5 out of 10. The first season was a 10 out of 10 for me as well. So
I think if she had a bigger boat in the last episode, I would have been a little more okay with it. But that little,
you know what?
And then the kid in the slicker, like it's a fucking horror movie,
right?
Like, what the fuck is going on?
No,
or no, he does like the
right, yeah. I wish he would have done like a whistle command. That was like
there were some cheesy moments in that one, unfortunately.
So, anyway, that being said, I'm all in on this. I think this is a great series. I'm hopeful that when we get Abby's side, that this season will take a full picture of. We'll have a better idea of sort of where everyone is, how everyone is viewed, and not necessarily that I need someone to choose for, but the sort of the choice will be clearer at the end of season 3. So with that, guys, get comfortable. Fill your water.
Right. Make sure you pee.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not going to be stopping for a while.
No. Right. Yeah.
Jesus.
Steve, bring us home.
Okay.
What do you got?
Enter the soup.
Right.
So
that's where the gong
I
goes
actually I can't help myself when I'm my neurodivergent hyperfixation. I took notes during your guys' discussion.
Nice.
Yeah. We heard the
One
clicky-clacky.
thing I just really quickly want to touch on two things. Mainly is something Andy said, something Joe said. Andy, you said I need to find a person I can get behind.
Yeah.
Without. You haven't played the games at all.
I've said this before. I got to a point in the first game where I hit a save point with like the lowest possible health, and I am not a sneak around guy. I am a tank.
Got it.
So I was in a point where I had to sneak with low health, and I could not get past one of the clickers, and I rage quit after maybe like 3 hours of trying to get past this spot.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, without spoiling too much of the entirety of the plot of The Last of Us, the overarching story of The Last of Us 2 is, I'll say it's like a lot of mirroring and a lot of distortion at the same time.
Okay.
Showing that there is so much gray area and nothing is truly black and white.
Got it.
You're supposed to, as you said, you're supposed to kind of not like Ellie up to a point. You're supposed to be like, Ellie, the hell are you doing?
Sure.
What the helly? You know what I mean? So, sorry. I had to slide that in
my soundboard.
But you're supposed to start being like, Ellie, you're being ridiculous.
Yeah.
And especially so in the game. Like, she is, in the game, she is like, a one-woman killing machine on a mission to avenge Joel.
Right.
Like, nothing deters her from that. In the show, I'll get to it later, the writing failed Bella Ramsey.
Yeah.
100%. I will die on that hill. She would have been great as Ellie, the writing failed her. But more to that later. Then, in what will be Season 3, you see... For the first time, you're supposed to see for the first time, the show really jumped the shark and jumped the gun on a lot of stuff with Abby. In the game, you literally just see Abby. You don't even know her name as Abby until halfway through you playing as her. It just says woman in the subtitles.
Yeah.
Until somebody mentions her name and then it starts saying Abby.
That's cool.
And then Joel saves her and then she kills him and it's quick. and there's no long speech where she's glazing him like,
Yeah.
oh, you're like 6'4" and hella sexy for an old man. Like, if I was, things were different, maybe you and I'd go get a coffee. It's like, ma'am, what are you like in my notes I wrote down where Joel was like, just do it already, and I was like, I agree, Pedro.
Right.
Like, fucking God. Oh my God. Like,
We're with you,
in
buddy.
the game it's literally just like, he's like, hey, how's it going? Like, one of the changes, I'll expand more on it later, is that it's not Dina and Joel in the game, it's Joel and Tommy in the game.
Okay.
And so they both go into the mansion, and they're basically like, hey, how's it going? And Tommy's like, oh, thanks for saving us. Like, we're just going to hang out for this storm, and then we'll get out of your hair. My name's Tommy, this is my brother Joel. And then everyone looks at each other like, holy shit, it's Joel.
Yeah.
And then Joel turns around, he's like, what? You all look like you've heard from us before. And then Abby shoots his kneecap off, knocks out Tommy, and then it's like, she basically shoots him, he's screaming, and then she tells Mel, like, tourniquet his leg, we're gonna do this slow. And then Ellie rolls up, they push Ellie to the ground as Abby's beating him to death, and then when Ellie gets there, they get mad that, like, there weren't guards posted, and then they're like, shit, the whole town's gonna come down on us. Make it quick. Abby gets the killing blow, and they're off. That's all you know about Abby.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know anything about Abby until you play as her Seattle Day 1. Now it's Abby's story.
Got it.
So
You're halfway through the thing at that
you're
point.
halfway through the game. All you know about Abby is she killed Joel. You know nothing about her. You don't know that they were Fireflies. You don't know that her dad was the guy that Joel killed. You know nothing. All you know is that Abby is a piece of shit.
Well, and you know that
So
she
then when you-
didn't skip shoulder and arm day.
Oh, 100%. No, you
Yeah.
don't. Abby video game Abby can absolutely, like, 1v1 a gorilla.
Right, yeah.
You know, like that.
Right,
So
100%.
it's like
100 men or
100%.
one
She would
Abby.
just
Right.
like, when you
That's
play
the
as
next-
Abby, like, you can fist fight clickers, and it's the funniest shit ever. 'Cause she
Really?
She
Oh,
just
shit.
squares up on them and just starts punching them in the face, and I'm like, Jesus
That's
Christ.
amazing.
So, and then I like to think of it as Laura Bailey squaring off against a clicker.
Right.
It just makes me
Right.
laugh
Yeah.
really hard. But
This
But
is for
you-
your little dicks.
Right. But you know nothing about Abby. So then when you start playing her side of the 3 days in Seattle, like, you hate her
Yeah.
off the bat. You're like, oh, this fucking bitch. I have to play as her now? Like, God damn it. I will say, without spoiling anything, by the end of the story, entire end of the game, credits rolled, I am the biggest Abby stan, and I will fight somebody who says she's horrible. Like, her
Damn,
story
I figured
is
as much.
so good in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main reasons why I'm like, I just want, like, I want to tell what's his name? I have it here. Hold on. Craig, whatever the hell
Craig
his name
Mazin.
is, the writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want him to, like, turn on his GPS because I want to find out where he is so I can fight. Like, you know, I'm just like, I'm so.
Well, I mean,
Anyway.
Druckmann signed off on this. You gotta be
I know
pissed at him,
Druckmann
too.
signed off on it, but I'm like, my guy, like,
Yeah.
come on now, like, talk about fucking your legacy in the ass.
Well,
Yeah,
like,
figuratively
hopefully,
speaking.
like Andy said, season 3 will turn that around, because as somebody who's never played the game, I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I want Abby to die a horrible,
Yeah, but
horrible
you
fucking
can't
death.
put
No, no.
that genie back in the bottle, though. It would have been cool
Yeah.
if even if they're going to do multiple seasons to do what Steve was talking
Yeah.
about and stick with the game. Like, don't do the whole intro with them standing over a grave, a bunch of fireflies,
Right.
and don't do the exposition.
Exactly.
Why?
No,
why
and
not? Like, why not keep
100%.
it a secret?
Yeah.
That's what I don't get.
That's what I don't get either, and I'm gonna expand on that. But Nate, you're 100% correct. Why not keep it a secret if you're gonna follow this story of first half Ellie, second? Well, I'll say first third Ellie, second third Abby, third mystery thing that I'm
Yeah.
not even gonna remotely talk about, but it will play a role in this rant.
It's
You
a
know.
Clicker Friends episode. It's the one where they click.
Well, it is, and then they have trouble pivoting a couch down some stairs. It's
Yeah,
really kind of
exactly.
fun,
Yeah,
but,
right.
you know. But the Abby part, when you play as Abby, is like you grow to understand things from her point of view, and it really changes the character.
Right.
But overall, the story of The Last of Us 2 is a story about revenge,
Yeah.
and it's a story about how revenge will eat you alive.
Yeah.
And so Ellie wants revenge for Joel. In the game, she goes to Seattle, commits a small genocide, kills all of Abby's friends, you know, murders a bunch of dogs. They left that out of the season, so
Oh.
I'm kind of grateful that they didn't do that. And I was like, every time I saw a dog in the show, I was like, ugh.
Oh no!
But I was like, oh god, no.
DoesTheDogDie.com.
A lot of animal death in the game. I was like, oh god, don't do this in the show, and they didn't. So
Yeah.
good job. But then after that, you see Abby's point of view,
Right.
and you see people getting revenge in Abby's story. Not with spoiling anything, but there's a lot of revenge there, and her processing what happened after she got her revenge,
Yeah.
and how she feels post Joel dying. And then you get other characters who are introduced and see their relation to revenge and how that all works. And it really turns everything from a stark black and white to a really muddled gray.
Sure.
But it does it in such a brilliant way that it's just like the storytelling is just phenomenal. So that you will find a person you can get behind, but also at the same time, like, you could be behind really anybody,
Sure.
because there are people who are like 10 toes down, like, I hate Abby, I want her to die,
Yeah.
and I love Ellie. And there's other people who are like, Abby was right, Ellie's a punk. Like, there's you get behind somebody, but once you have the full picture,
Yeah.
it becomes harder.
Sure.
You
Is
know,
the Thanos was right situation?
Right.
Is that what we're talking about?
a little bit. I mean, everything balanced as it should be.
Yeah.
You know?
Right, exactly.
And then to Joe's point, she said, she's like, I've never played the games, but I understand like how I would feel when they do BioShock, because they are doing BioShock, and I am terrified about what they're going to do with BioShock.
I'm so scared.
Well, they're doing Elden
so
Ring
scared.
too, which is like
Right.
whoa.
And so I just quickly jotted down like game comparisons to TV adaptions, and I thought of, like, really quick, just off the top of my head, a good adaptation that has nothing to do with the game, but it's still a fantastic adaptation, Fallout.
Yeah.
Fallout was fantastic. It had fuck all to do with the game.
Yeah.
It was its own story. Like, it had characters like, Mr. House and Robco Industries and stuff like that, like as Easter egg type things, but like none of those characters were in any game.
Sure.
The areas in the game were somewhat present, but it's its own contained story. And
Yeah.
that was amazing. And it was done in the spirit of Fallout, being totally campy, that 1950s chic, like comical yet gory yet serious. Like, it was really well done.
Yeah, it's a story that
then-
could have been happening alongside the game
100%.
at any point.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's when the adaptation is just so bad we should just bury it and forget it ever existed. I put Resident Evil for that.
True.
Like, every single adaptation of Resident Evil, like, I just want to scream at God, why?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it just makes me so mad because I love that series. Then there's when you change the game and change the lore, and it's amazing, and I put Arcane.
Yeah.
Because prior to Arcane, all of the characters who we love in Arcane had, like, a bio, they had a storyline, they had this is who they are, this is what they're doing. And only after watching Arcane did you realize all of that prior shit was garbage. And they did such a better job. And we fully adapt new canon. Like, this is amazing, we're going to stick with this. And then when it's a change that's bad, The Last of Us 2. I think the change they made were horrible.
Yeah.
Compared to the game, and that is where I'm going to start my rant.
Okay.
Probably like 30 minutes into me talking.
First, so for those of you who haven't heard the 10 hours of Rum Regret content on Arcane from Steve himself, please go back and listen to those. Those are epic breakdowns of Arcane. But Steve, please
Yes.
enlighten us.
So I'm going to kind of break this down into 3 different sections. This one is character motivations, character roles.
Uh-huh.
2 is going to be rewrites and like edits.
Sure.
And then 3 will be kind of how I feel the season could have been so much better.
Okay, and there
Not
will
that
be
I'm
a
like
quiz at the end of this, so guys,
There
take your
will.
notes.
It is pass fail.
Right.
No, just kidding. So I guess the biggest issue I had is how they restructured all of the characters and their motivations.
Yeah.
Nate brought up that Ellie seems less capable than she was in season 1, and that is 100% spot on.
Yeah.
I don't know at what point the writing staff thought they should infantilize Ellie and have all of the people around her treat her like she's a dumb shit.
Yeah.
But, like, season 1 Ellie would straight, like, 360 no-scope season 2 Ellie from, like, 500 yards away without breaking a sweat. Like,
Yeah, and they
like there was a
season
part
with her training jujitsu to
Right.
toughen her
Right.
up. Like, what the fuck?
Well, they started it out with her like doing jujitsu, and she's like, "You gotta fuck me up harder." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So they're gonna get like angry, revenge-driven Ellie, and then the rest of the show was her like skipping through a field, and Dina being like, "You know, when there's people with guns, you have to duck behind cover." And she's like, "Oh shit, I didn't even think about
you
that.
can't
My
wear your
bad."
chucks
Like,
on the adventure. Here's
yeah,
your boots.
Yeah.
like they made Dina like a tactical wizard, and Ellie's like walking into traffic, and they have to pull her back on like a kid leash.
Right,
You know? It's
yeah.
like, what are you doing?
She has like a bear backpack.
Yeah, she has like the monkey backpack with the long tail. They're like, nope. But that really bugged me because the Ellie in the game is like she's like a one man, like, you know those action 80s from the movie, or action movies from the 80s. My brain is
Commando
not
style.
working.
Right.
Where it's like one man wrecking crew, like Schwarzenegger and Commando, like
Yeah,
walking
she's
up
making
to the
Molotovs
compound
and bombs and
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Like,
Rocket
in the
launcher.
game, Ellie is straight up ruthless. And in the show, she's like, I don't want to have to hurt anybody. And then 2 minutes later, literally, she's like, we have to go kill them. They were going to hurt a boy. It's like,
Right.
what? Didn't you just say we don't have to do this? Like, what? Dina, the rewrite on Dina and the rewrite on Jessie are my two biggest gripes because they were my favorite characters in the game.
Yeah.
They are side characters in the game, but like Dina in the game, they rewrote her story, they rewrote her background. Not that it matters, it's neither here nor there. Like in the show, she's Hispanic. In the game, she's Jewish. Like, but in the game, like her and Ellie, their playful banter, their relationship is a lot more chemistry than the show.
Yeah.
Like, and the way they have that chemistry is like they'll do like kind of like gentle jokes and stuff. Like Ellie will say something sarcastic and Dina will respond sarcastically, and Ellie's like, "You're my favorite." You know, it's just like, it's kind of cute, it's kind of heartwarmy.
Yeah.
I felt like in watching the show, I was like halfway through the show, I was like, does Dina even like Ellie? Like, 1 minute she's like hot, the next minute she's cold, the next minute she's like caring, the next minute she's like pining for Jessie. I was like, what the fuck is all this?
Yeah.
So the relationship between Dina and Ellie, vastly different in the games, and I feel like the games had a much better, more realistic portrayal of them finding love and falling in love than the show did. The biggest offense I feel like for season 2 is they did my man Jesse so bad. Holy shit, they did him so bad. In the show, he's just angry all the time, and he's like irritated, and he's kind of like that older brother who's like, "Oh, of course I had to come find you guys. You were fucking off in Seattle. It's time to go back. We have to go to the goddamn rendezvous point and find Tommy. Like, come on, guys." And then,
He's kind of a pissy bitch.
Well, but
He
they
was like a
redeemed
pissy
him.
bitch.
They did redeem him at the end. That little
At the very
honestly,
end.
seriously,
27 seconds before he gets
like,
capped in
the
the
dialogue
face.
he
Yes.
has with Ellie on the stage was like, all right, no, seriously, like I think I turned to Jamie and said, he ain't that bad.
right. So the dialogue he had with Ellie on the stage, I think, is pretty much verbatim from the game.
Uh-huh.
The whole time in the game, Jesse is like nothing if not supportive.
Yeah.
Like, the game starts out, the game opens, and it's the day after the dance where Seth calls Ellie the D word, Joel attacks him, Ellie flips out, and you don't know any of that yet. Like, the game just starts with Jesse knocking on the door for Ellie, and Ellie's like half awake, and he's like, "Hey, like, you ready to go? We gotta go do patrol." And they did have this scene in the show, but it felt flat to me, where he basically is like, "Oh, like, you want to talk about last night?" And Ellie thinks he's talking about, like, kissing Dina, and she's like, "Oh, shit." And then he plays it up like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you do that to me. Like, what the fuck?" And she's like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry." And he's like, "Ellie, I'm fucking with you. I don't care. Let's go." Like, in the game, he's much more, like, playful about it. In the game, after Joel dies, like I said, Tommy was there with Joel, not Dina. And basically, right after Joel dies, like, Ellie's still beat up from Joel dying.
Yeah.
And Tommy comes to visit her, and he has, like, a Tupperware full of food, and he's like, "Maria wanted me to make sure you're eating." And Ellie is like, "What are you talking about? Like, we need to go after them. Like, they have a couple days head start. This is some bullshit. Like, we need to go right now." And Tommy is like, "We can't spare the people. Like, what happens to Jackson if we leave?" And then Ellie accuses him, kind of fucked up, honestly, accuses him of, like, "Are these your words or are these Maria's words?" because that was your brother, and you're not willing to go after these people. And Tommy gets kind of flustered, and he's like, just make sure you're eating, okay? And then he leaves. Very next day, they find out Tommy left in the middle of the night and went to Seattle by himself.
Oh.
So a lot of people who love the games are so mad that we got robbed of the Tommy crash out, as people call it, because Tommy, like, right after Joel dies, goes to Seattle and starts stacking bodies. And so everybody was like, we wanted the Tommy crash out, and we didn't get it. So then, the very next day in the game, Maria approaches Ellie, and Ellie has already decided, like, I'm going after Tommy, and I'm going after Abby, more importantly. Like, I'm going to go help Tommy, but really, I just want to fucking kill Abby. And in the game, Dina basically says, where you go, I go. Like, that's a direct quote I wrote down, where she's like, where you go, I go. Let's do it. And Ellie tries to dissuade her from going, like, it's going to be a long trip. It's going to be dangerous. And Dina's like, you're not getting rid of me. Like, stop it. So then they meet with Maria. Maria gives them permission to leave and is like, please bring back my idiot husband. Yeah. Like, go. And so then they're like, got it, no problem. So then they leave. Later in the game, when you're playing a very fun part of the game, it's Hillcrest Avenue is the section of the chapter it's called, where you're trying to get... I think you're trying to get to the hospital at that point to find what the fuck is her name? Nora. Yeah. And you're fighting WLF, you're escaping from WLF, you're running through the neighborhoods, and you slide down a hill, and somebody puts their hand over your mouth and drags you into a corner, and you're like, who the fuck is this? Is it Tommy? It's Jesse. And in the game, you're like, oh fuck, it's Jesse. And Jesse literally is like, you got yourself into a lot of trouble, don't you? And she's like, what are you doing here? And he says, and I wrote down this quote because how they did Jesse did so fucking wrong. He tells Ellie in the game, my friend's problems are my problems. Oh. He says, I left the day after you guys left. I had to sneak out because they didn't want me to leave. Oh. Like, I had to see this through.
Yeah.
And so he goes. He finds out Dina's pregnant, and he's, like, so supportive of, like, Dina and Ellie, like, being together. He's, like, super loving towards them. And at one point, he and Ellie have a falling out where Ellie is like, she sees the Ferris wheel, she sees the aquarium, and she's like, oh my god, like, Abby's there, we have to go to Abby right now. But at the same time, they hear on the radio about a sniper down by the marina, and he's like, oh shit, that's Tommy, and they're sending truckloads of people after him, we have to go save Tommy. And Ellie's like, yeah, but Abby. And that's where Jesse's like, the fuck, we have to go save Tommy, like, forget about Abby, come save your friend.
Yeah.
Right.
And Abby and Ellie refuses to listen to him and is like, no, he'll be fine, and if he's not, whatever, and if he is, he'll meet us at the aquarium. I'm going to the aquarium. And Jesse basically is like, I wish you luck, like, I'll see you later. So then Jesse goes after Tommy to try to save him. Ellie, as we know, goes to the aquarium. That whole scene plays out. Tommy and Jesse then meet Ellie, bring her back to the theater. So that's why I feel like when Jesse died in the game, I was, shocked at how sudden it was. Like, everything that played out in the show, verbatim the game.
Yeah.
Like, he runs out the door, bang in the head, dead. And I had to stop the game, and I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I was not ready for that. But they did Jesse so wrong with how they wrote his character.
I'm bummed that Tommy didn't go to Seattle first. That makes such a difference for Ellie as a character. In my eyes, anyway.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
No, and that's why... And there was nothing about a council. There was nothing about, like... There was no big fight in Jackson. It was literally just Joel dies, Tommy leaves, Ellie follows him, Jesse follows them. They're in Seattle. Like, that's it.
There were any homophobic sandwiches.
Right.
There was homophobic sandwiches. That was in the game.
Yeah.
That was the only scene Seth was in, and that's a big gripe I have, which I'm going to get more into later, is the constant... like redeeming of Seth. I was like, this is a choice at this point.
Trash person.
You know, like, why do you continually reclaim, like, redeem Seth? Like, I was so mad. But there was one scene also in the beginning of the game, which I feel like had they done it in the show, it would have really set up the relationship between Ellie and Dina, which is that Ellie and Dina go out on patrol together when Joel and Tommy are on patrol, and they don't come back, and that's why Ellie goes looking for him and finds him with Abby when he dies. So they end up getting stuck in a blizzard. They go into a library, they're looking around the library and they're like, oh shit, this used to be Eugene's library. And they talk a lot about Eugene.
Mm-hmm.
The show rewrote Eugene to be this kind of like meek, older, bald dude who's married to Catherine O'Hara and gets bit, and then they have to shoot him and kill him. Like, in the game, like, you see a picture of Eugene and he looks like Jason Momoa.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's like a muscular dude with like long hair, and like, he's a former Firefly. And he died of a stroke. And they have a whole conversation about, like, isn't that cool that he died of a stroke? Like, that's something we should all wish for. Instead of, like, being torn apart by clickers. Like, we should hope to just die of old age. But they go to this library, and they're sheltering in there for the storm. And then they find, like, a generator. And then they see the floors glowing. And they go down below the library. And it's a whole weed-growing operation.
Oh.
And they're like, holy shit. So then Ellie and Dina spend the time in the storm there, and they get really flirty, I'll say, and
They get really high and they hook up.
They get really high and they start talking about the kiss, and they get like, you know, there's a, you know, anyway.
Right.
I can't think of it.
There's
Anyway,
some T
but they,
and some A.
yes, they have like this affectionate moment there where you're like, oh, they really care about each other. And then actually Jesse finds them, and there's some funny banter between all of them where they're still like, oh, it's like, is Jesse over Dina yet? And he's like, dude, it's cool. I don't care what the hell you two are doing. We have to get back. Like, there's a storm, and Joel and Tommy aren't back yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that whole scene, they rewrote it in the show to be Jesse and Ellie are in, like, a 7-Eleven with weed and then just hanging out and getting high while Joel's dying with Dina next to him.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just a weird rewrite. Little side note, during that thing, they find some VHS porn tapes that Eugene had, and Ellie reads one of the titles of them, and she's like, Smash Brandy's Cooch, what does that mean? And it just was a very funny throwback to Smash Bandicoot, which is a Naughty Dog game.
Nice.
Anyway, I thought that was hilarious.
That's funny.
Also, they talk about in the game that Eugene is the person who Dina learned how to, like, do electronics and stuff with.
Right,
not Joel.
No.
In the game, they left immediately after Joel died. They didn't wait 3 months for Ellie to recover in a hospital and then, like, all of a sudden decide, like, hey, you know what? Weather's warmer. Maybe we go avenge Joel. Maybe we stop by Salt Lake again. You know, like, whatever. And that really bugged me because I feel like it lost the immediacy of the revenge.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Let me see. Other character rewrites. I agree with what Nate was saying, where it felt like Dina was the main character and Ellie was the side character. And I can't believe they made Ellie a side character in her own story.
Yeah.
Like, it just was so weird to me, because everything Dina was doing, I was like, Ellie should be doing this. Like, in the game, Dina is literally, like, a sidekick in the game. Like, she holds her own, don't get me wrong. But as soon as they get to the theater, Dina starts vomiting because she's having morning sickness. And ever since that point, she never leaves the theater again.
Yeah.
Like, and there's even a point, like, when Ellie finds out Dina's pregnant in the game, like, to make you not like Ellie, because it's supposed to become more morally gray, like, Dina says, I think I'm pregnant, and Ellie's like, well, then you're a liability.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
And Dina's like, what?
Yeah.
And then, like, she sleeps on it, and she goes back, like, the next day, and is like, I didn't mean it.
I'm sorry,
but, like,
baby.
Right.
maybe stay here and just, like,
She's not
monitor
wrong.
their comms.
Yeah, no. And in
You
the
know?
apocalypse, she's not wrong.
Yeah.
Right, but then it's like, but in the game, it's like, I might be pregnant. And she's like, I'm going to be a dad? And I'm like, Ellie, focus. Like, what are you doing here?
That
What
was
is
a
going on
sweet
here?
line,
It
though.
was.
Come on,
It was a sweet
cheesy as
line,
fuck.
but I'm also like, why are you taking your future baby mama out into danger left, right, and center? Like,
That's
Right.
not what
like,
a baby
what
mama
are you
is,
doing?
but okay.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean? I'm like, what the fuck?
Jesus.
Send your baby mama home.
Yeah.
I know.
And haven't
I
we
was
learned
like,
from Walking Dead, little liability?
Right.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Kids in these situations are not good.
Absolutely. So it's like, it just was so bizarre to me. So those are the main character rewrites I didn't like. the biggest changes to the show, just to kind of move it off of these, like, the game.
Yeah.
The show did this thing where, like, Nate hit on it, where it's like, everybody now knows Abby and her crew were Fireflies. Everybody now knows, within, like, 5 minutes in the first episode, that Joel killed Abby's dad. Like, when I played the game, I had no idea they were Fireflies. I did not know that her dad was the guy Joel killed who was going to do the surgery until after the final scene of the show. Like, it ends exactly like it did in the show, where Abby's standing over Tommy with the gun, and she's like, "You killed my friends," and then you hear a gunshot, it goes black.
Yeah, so I feel like with the internet these days, that you kind of had to get out in front of the Abby reveal because the information's out there. Because had they waited until episode 2 to reveal who Abby was, you would have, after episode 1, you would have had 800 videos on YouTube saying, "Who is the mystery girl from The Last of Us? Here she is. This is her story from the game." Like, it's, like, it would have been spoiled 2 seconds after the episode dropped, right?
100%. And I didn't think about that, and I do agree. So, I mean, that is a valid point. But it just, I remember when I was playing the game, I was shocked once I learned who Abby actually was.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, holy shit. But even if they did, like, reveal it early, like, fair enough, I didn't like the way that they made Abby's friends act like they weren't willing to do the revenge on Joel.
Right.
Like, all of them were basically, like, abandoned teens because they killed everybody at that outpost except for Abby and her friends. And they were all like, "We're stuck in Salt Lake in the middle of an apocalypse. Like, where the hell do we go now?" And all of them were on board with, like, we're coming here, we're going to kill Joel, we're going to go back to Seattle. That is our plan.
Yeah.
And there is a point in the game.
WLF, right? That's where they've been for the last
They were
5
already
years.
a part of the WLF. Sorry, that was a spoiler, probably. But,
No, I mean, in the show, like...
Oh, no, in the show, when they left Salt Lake, they were like, "Oh, I know my brother's, like, in this outfit in Washington."
Right.
So, but when they headed out to get Joel, they were already in the WLF, which, makes sense, because they had the patches. That's how they knew where the fuck they came from.
Right.
But in the game, they're very much like, there is one moment where Owen tells Abby, "Hey, look, Mel's pregnant. I think we need to go back because, like, she's pregnant. Jackson looks like a fortress. There's no way in hell we're going to get Joel out of there. Let's leave." And Abby says, "Are you fucking kidding me? Fuck that." And Abby goes off on her own and then stumbles upon Joel and then brings him back to the mansion. And that's why everybody's so shocked. Like, holy shit, here he is. Because they have this whole thing where they're talking about, like, how do we lure him out? But in the show, it seemed like all her friends were like, "Oh shit, we don't want to do this." Whereas they were really like, "We want to do this and then we want to leave." Sorry, I'm like...
No, I agree with that. It did seem weird that Abby, like, that they were so reticent after a 5-year journey to be so close to not want to see it through. And, and the fact, too, that, I mean, the fact that we had just met Abby here, too, that we didn't necessarily know who she was or what she's doing, and... Right. I guess her stature in the game does play a lot to who she is, because I didn't necessarily buy Caitlin Dever, the actress, getting through the infected attack, even to the point where she meets up with Joel, like, I mean, like, accidentally sliding down the hill and then stuck between the fence and the infected and everything. And, like, she did, like, for having traveled 5 years to get to Jackson, only to, like, completely bumble her way into finding Joel, I don't know did her character any good.
I mean, that's directly from the game.
That part's actually directly from the game.
I get that point, but you know more about her at that point.
No, of course, yeah.
Right?
She seems not really. I mean, you don't know more about her background or her story, but she does. I actually, personally, I felt that part was really well done.
Okay.
I felt like that was very faithful to the game. That there's a horde.
Right.
She runs into a ski lodge. Joel and Tommy save her. They ride off on Joel and Tommy's horses back to the mansion. Her friends throw Molotovs at the zombies, kill them, and then they go inside. Like, that's how it plays out in the game.
Right.
Yeah,
but I feel like
everything is in it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, the fence
with
scene
the
is
revolver
directly taken from
Yeah.
the game. But I do feel like what I didn't like was like the whole speech that Abby gave just felt so forced, and it felt so much like, I'm gonna explain the plot to you because I don't think you're gonna be like smart enough to put the pieces together. So
Right.
let me just outline this entire thing. It was like a villain soliloquy that went like way too far. And then sprinkled in there some like glazing of an older man, which I just found so cringe.
Yeah.
He's
As the youth will
monologuing
say.
is,
I'm trying to appeal to the Rum and Regret Gen Z crowd. But
yeah,
it's like,
there you go. That's hilarious.
All
oh, well,
four.
the toilet.
they were yapping too much and glazing this old dude.
Right.
You know? They got to lock in. F's in the chat for Joel. You know?
Oh my god.
Anyway, I have a almost 11-year-old, so I'm well versed in this.
I have no idea
Yeah,
what
tell
you
her
just said.
the original Rizzler says hi.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah, the Ohio Rizzler.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So, but you know, I felt like the speech Abby gave, like, even if she wanted to give a speech, because yes, it's being adapted for TV, fine, give a speech, but don't like read the Cliff Notes version of the entire plot of the game.
Sure.
As this dude's bleeding out on the ground, and even I think Joel was just like, just fucking do it already.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
come
I can
on.
imagine it felt kind of cheap, given that you had to earn that information from the gameplay, right?
100%, yeah.
Like here's
It
the cheat
really-
code and all the backstory.
Yeah, it
that
really
I
was
earned.
like, oh wow, they're just, and they do this throughout the season.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the only time. Like, there's so many points, like especially with the Nora part. Nora, like when she's choking to death on spores, somehow has all the energy in the world
Right.
to be like, let me just lay out the rest of this plot for
Yeah.
you, Ellie, because clearly you're not getting it. It's like, what? I was just like, Ellie, do it already. Like, what the fuck?
I know you're gonna kill me, but let me give you a little extra info.
Right.
Let me draw you a map.
She's like, hold
Let
up,
me
hold
give
up,
you all
hold
the
up.
security codes.
I mean, she made her
Yeah.
talk, right, with the pipe.
She's like, no, the door sticks a little bit, so you got to be sure to push it just right in this corner. It's like, what
You
the
gotta lift and turn.
Right.
Lift and
Right,
turn.
exactly. But like in the game, like that part with Nora, I'll get to that later. Sorry. But you know, it's just the writing. I think this will be my transition. The writing failed this show, and it failed the actors in this show.
Yeah.
Or this season, I'll say. Season 1 was amazing. They did little changes in season 1, but they kept the train moving. It got to its destination.
Yeah.
And the changes were all good. I loved season 1.
Yeah.
Season 2 did too much changing stuff and not enough keeping the plot moving forward.
Sure.
One thing I really did not like that they did is, first off, like, I love Catherine O'Hara, amazing actress,
Yeah.
woefully miscast in this show. There is, as you guys know, the Seraphites or the Scars.
Right.
They have their prophet, the whole feel her love as an older woman. They should have cast Catherine O'Hara as the Seraphite prophet.
Oh, sure.
Didn't the prophet's dead?
She
though,
would have
right?
been
Didn't the
amazing.
Seraphites mention that she died?
Don't they? I think
She did die.
They have different prophets, right? Don't they? Doesn't
No, they
somebody-
only have in the game they only have the one prophet, but in the show I did catch that on my rewatch where there's a different mural and they're like, maybe they have multiple prophets,
Yeah.
and I was like,
right. No,
But
that
It's
that
a
in there-
multi-level marketing scam in the apocalypse.
yes,
that
it's
entire
like an
couple
MLM.
that entire couple was underutilized because Joey Pants was
Yes.
the
Yeah.
husband.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just.
So
give them
I
the
feel like
flashback.
Yeah.
I was like, when I saw Catherine O'Hara, I was like, they should have made her the fucking Seraphite prophet, because the whole thing with the Seraphite prophet in the Last of Us lore is that she was living in Seattle when it was under Fedra control, and she had a vision that basically the fungal apocalypse, I forget what they call it, whatever. She had this vision that it was caused by basically man's addiction to technology. So she started preaching that we need to give up the old ways or give up the technology and go back to the old ways of like farming, using bows and arrows, like using like handmade tools and stuff like that. Seattle, because of the heavy rainfall after the apocalypse and everything, and like, you know, there's no whatever the Washington equivalent of Caltrans is to upkeep roads and stuff. Like heavy rains and stuff divided the city, and the Lower Queen Anne neighborhood essentially becomes an island, and that's where the Seraphites live, and they make like farms and they live without technology. And Fedra is like, we don't like what that lady's doing, but at the same time, like, it's a pain in the ass to get out there. Let's just let her fucking have her little cult, whatever.
Yeah.
When the WLF takes over, Isaac is like you guys have a cult, it's kind of weird, but like, no biggie, whatever. And then something basically kicks off, and some Seraphites get into it with some WLF, and he's like, I'm going to make an example of the Prophet, and he has the Prophet killed. At that point, the Seraphites become much more militant and start going after the WLF. So that's the conflict between the two of them. I feel like they should have cast Catherine O'Hara as the Seraphite Prophet, and like they did with Bill and his partner in season 1, have an episode showing the relationship between the WLF and the Prophet, have it end with the Prophet getting killed, and then later when you introduce the Seraphites, you're like, oh fuck, that's what happened to all those people.
I have a feeling that that could very well still happen in season 2.
I mean, that could happen in
season
3. That very well could happen. I just feel like Catherine O'Hara would have been a perfect role for it.
Yeah.
The whole, she's a therapist, but she's like the world's worst therapist. Like, I was like on the phone with CAMP, which is California Association of MFTs. I was like, I just want to report this lady right now. Like, she's smoking weed, talking this way to her client. I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's a therapy joke. But I felt like in the first episode, I was like, okay, she's being funny, whatever. But then she got into this whole, like, you killed my husband, but I'm still going to meet with you, and I'm mad now. And, like, Joel was like, I feel bad. And I was like, okay, where is all of this going? And then it just kind of petered out. And I was like, okay, you guys spent, like, 40 minutes of a very limited 7-episode season with this?
Yeah.
Like, okay, fair enough.
And then she gets drunk in a field with Tommy.
Yeah.
Right, and then there's her drunk in a field with Tommy talking about baseball, and I'm like, okay, guys, come on, revenge tour, like TikTok, we got 7 episodes here.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like Catherine O'Hara was mismanaged in her role in this season. However, I don't blame them, because honestly, if you score talent like that, you're like, we got the talent, we're gonna fucking use it.
Right.
I feel like they did the same thing. I hate to say it. They did the same thing with Pedro Pascal. He's amazing. He is like the it actor. He was huge in Mandalorian, huge in Last of Us Season 1. He's back for Season 2. And I think the writers knew, like, we have a Joel problem because Joel dies so early in the season.
Yeah.
People are going to be pissed. They're going to want more Pedro Pascal. My wife stopped watching after the episode where he died, and even though I told her, like, he's back in later episodes and flashbacks, she was like, I don't fucking care.
Right.
I was like, okay, I get it. Like, you know.
Yeah,
so I feel like they were like, fuck, we have a problem. We have to kill him off, but we want him in more episodes.
Right.
So now we're going to do way more flashback episodes. We're going to do an extended cut, pre his death episode. Try to squeeze as much Pedro Pascal out of this as we can.
Yeah.
Which I get, but I disagree with.
Sure.
So I just feel like the star power of the two of them, I feel like they, I get why they did it, but I feel for story continuity wise, it didn't make sense. I didn't like that they spent so much time in fucking Jackson. Honestly, I feel like they wanted to do kind of a Walking Dead situation where, like, the Walking Dead spent so much time in certain locales that in the comic they were there for maybe 5 minutes, but I think the showrunners were like, no, this is really cool. Like, let's flesh it out more. And then it really convoluted storylines.
Sure.
I feel like the creators were like, we really love the theme of, like, Jackson and this walled city against the infected, and look how people barter, and it's really cool. And I was like, if they wanted to do a spin-off like The Last of Us, Life and Times in Jackson
Right.
Hole, like, do it. Fantastic. Don't try to shoehorn it into a 7-episode season
Sure.
when you have so much ground to cover. And I feel like some of the other storylines got cut because they wanted a whole thing with the Jackson Council and with the Jackson Helm's Deep fight,
Right.
and with, you know, Tommy.
The long winter and all that.
Yeah, this is going to be a really pedantic argument also. But Tommy is known for being like a sniper. Like, he uses this high caliber sniper rifle. He picks off people from hella far away. We saw him teaching Ellie how to use the sniper rifle. Yet, when the zombies are attacking, he grabs a flamethrower and runs through the city streets. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong.
It'd be
though.
like Ellie being like, I'm a master of jujitsu, and then she takes out a knife and tries to stab a guy repeatedly.
Right.
You're like, what are
That
you doing?
was after he knew the walls were going to get breached. Come on.
Yeah.
man.
No, but
He
I
did
mean,
his sniping
even when he was
before
up there,
that.
he's like, let me just Donkey Kong this shit and roll these barrels down. And, like, you know, I was
Also,
like, the whole
Jackson
time I
Hole
was
is
like,
filled with
sniper,
two-story buildings.
sniper.
There's plenty of times where he could get up on a roof and snipe people.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Hard to snipe a
He's
hole.
like running past staircase after staircase. He's like, if only there were stairs. You're like, bro.
I don't know.
How can I get on this roof?
I do love the scene of him emptying the flamethrower on the bloater. Though.
Oh, yeah.
That
No, 100%.
was so good.
Without spoiling anything, that is... There's a parallel to that in the game.
Okay.
Okay, you
That
just-
should show up later that would have been more impactful, I feel. But I digress.
Okay.
But I felt like that they spent like 3 episodes in Jackson, and I was like, you guys are going to have 4 episodes left to do this revenge mission, and then one of the 4 left was a flashback episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, and I mean, now that I'm talking out loud and train of thoughting, I get it that they wanted to do like Seattle Day 1, 1 episode, Seattle Day 2, 1 episode, Seattle Day 3, 1 episode, and then they were probably like, well, shit, we got 4 episodes left.
Yeah.
But like, there was so much they could have done differently, and there's a lot they cut from all those things. So like in Seattle Day 1 in the game, Ellie and Dina are exploring Seattle. When they first get there, there's like no sign of the WLF, and they're like, maybe the whole town's abandoned. Like, who knows? Maybe the WLF disbanded and these were like a ragtag group of people roaming the countryside killing Joels. Who knows? You know?
Your name, Joel?
So you don't even see the WLF, right? You know, is your name Joel? You're like, no. Like, okay, my mistake.
Go
You know?
into the phone
I'm
book
Jeff.
like the Terminator with Sarah
Right.
Connors.
Sarah Connor.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But you don't see the WLF for a long time, and then when you find them finally, you find remnants of them. Like, you find, like, there's
All
the
Fedra
Serafina
leftovers,
Hotel,
right? Yeah.
and, like, you go into the hotel, and everybody inside is dead, but they're freshly dead. So
Yeah.
then Ellie and Dina are like, oh, fuck, Tommy was here. And then you find, actually, one of the guys who was there when Joel died, and he's tied to a chair, and he's dead. And Ellie tells Dina, like, this was Tommy, and he killed this dude, and he killed the other dude, and he did this trick where he shows one dude the map, and he says, point to this, and then he shows the other dude, and he says, if you guys don't match up, I'm going to kill you both. And so it illuminates how cruel Joel and Tommy were.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of online discourse about, like, Joel did nothing wrong, Abby's a jerk, how could she torture him? And I'm like, Joel tortured people. Like, are you kidding me right now?
Right.
Like, really? So, anyway, but, like, so there's that, and then after all of that, you finally run into the WLF, and you're like, oh, fuck, they are in Seattle, and Ellie gets captured, and you think Ellie's gonna die, and then Dina saves her. And they're, like, stuck in this elementary school, and they have to escape, and then they're running along the rooftops, and they're, like, ducking into buildings, and WLF are chasing them. Like, all of this would have been really cool to see, like, more action-y parts in the show, I
Yeah.
feel. And they cut it all out, and they basically were like, I love the music store scene. I'm glad they kept that in. I feel like that was actually as funny as it sounds. I'm like, that's necessary for the plot.
Right.
But also, like, they could have added in some more, like, running from the WLF, like, sneaking around, like, maybe fighting some zombies in a random office building on our way to something. But it felt more like a Netflix teen drama of them going through a post-apocalyptic town, you know, like skipping and being lovely. And then they interlaced it with, like, here's Isaac talking for 20 minutes about a goddamn set of pot and pans and how copper's a better conductor. And I was like... Again,
I really liked that scene. That was so chilling.
I love the actor. I forget his name.
Jeffrey Wright. Yeah, Jeffrey Wright. He voiced the same character in the game.
He voiced
right?
Isaac in the game, so I was so glad. And that is how Isaac is in the game.
Yeah.
Like, Isaac is very cold and very calculated. You find out more about that in Abby's story. So I was like, why are they putting so much of this in season 2? And I was like, again, it's like the Catherine O'Hara, Pedro Pascal thing, where it's like, we got Jeffrey Wright, let's use him.
Yeah.
You know? I didn't like that they introduced the Seraphites so early. And that they also included them, like, there was that beginning of the episode where they're, like, walking, like, 10 miles outside of Seattle.
Yeah, and then
they're like, oh, tell me about the prophet, Daddy. He's like, well, the prophet says this, little girl. And I'm like, what is this shit? I'm like, oh, brother, you know. I was in a crash out while watching this season.
Yeah.
Well, that was the part where I thought it was going to be very interesting and then get completely not used. And then
that's the thing.
Coming to find out later that the Seraphites are actually a thing that's going to continue, I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
and that
sweet,
they're-
because that was a really interesting cult.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
at first, they're there as a tool to help you hate the WLF and think that, oh, the Seraphites are... I mean, you don't know the Seraphites at that point. They're like, they killed all these innocent people, and then come to find out the Seraphites are stringing up people by their entrails. And
Exactly.
Like, oh, God, okay.
So
got a civil war going on.
Yeah. Like, the thing I liked... So, in the game, when you hear about the Seraphites, you don't even know they're called Seraphites until, I think, Abby's story is when you first find out they're actually called Seraphites. Like, all you hear of them called is Scars. And so, like, when... In the game, like, when they're leaving the school, you hear them on the radio, like, we have to find those intruders, and they're like, no, we can't. Isaac's calling us all back to the fob, like, Scar attack in section whatever. And you're like, what the fuck are Scars? And then they go to the TV station, and that's the first time where you see people strung up, their intestines hanging out, and Ellie is like, oh shit, are these Scars?
Yeah.
Like, is that what they fucking did? Like, you still don't know who they are, you just know of them, which is infinitely more interesting and scary to me when you know of them, and you know that they hang people and cut their insides out, but you have no other idea about anything about them. And then much later, when Ellie is on her way to go kill Nora, she goes through a park which is kind of overgrown, and then randomly, as you're walking through the park, scare the shit out of me if I'm being honest, you hear somebody whistle, and you're like, what the fuck is that? And then next thing you know, you get hit with an arrow, and you're like, what the fuck? And then after you get arrowed, you see the Seraphites slowly creep out from behind the trees, and they're doing, like, whistles and, like, you know, hand signals to be like, over there, like, get them.
Yeah.
And you're like, who the fuck are these people? And then after that, you realize, oh, these are the Scars. And it was genuinely unsettling when you first run across them. But I felt like they gave them so much airtime before you even really knew anything about them. And then they tried to use, like, the WLF killed a little girl, like, as a way to feel bad for them. And I was like...
So they did the same thing with them that they did with Abby. They're like, here's all the details up front.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, you know, plot...
I feel like there was... I feel like there was enough mystery around them for someone who hasn't played the game. I felt like though there was an adequate amount of mystery around them, and I kind of went on the journey that you just described, watching the show with them. Then, you know, because like, you see them walking, you see them having this sort of nice discussion, and then the next scene they're murdered, right? And you're just like, well, crap, they, you know. Who are these people? Did they deserve to die? I don't know this, right? And then you hear the WLF. They do refer to them as Scars, I think, for a whole episode before you find out that they're named Seraphites. And then we see the dismembering in the forest. Yeah. And then you're just like, oh, no. They're dicks, right?
Right. No. I don't agree with these people. No. Back up.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to take my Seraphites or cool sticker off my car.
Right. Yeah.
Come back,
Yeah.
You're like,
Justice
no.
for the scars. Okay. No. Ripping that off.
Yeah,
All right,
for real.
we're good. Okay.
I was a fan before they got crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it was a very well done disemboweling, I must say.
Oh God! Well, the fact that the guy with the sickle just put it in him, and then the guy with the rope around his neck pulled him up.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he
Yeah,
sliced down.
that was brutal.
It was
I did like that they did that. I mean, let me back up. I didn't like that the characters did that. I liked that they showed that, because that is something that you're like,
Yeah.
oh, these people are fucking crazy. They're in a cult, and you get a lot more.
Aside from
lore on
scarring
them.
their faces,
Right.
you know,
Right, and that's
if that
what I'm
wasn't
hoping.
enough.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping in season 3 they explore why they all have the Glasgow smile.
Yeah.
Like a lot of because it doesn't get explained really in the game, and I had to look up before I came on here. Like, what is with that? And a lot of the literature on it basically says, like, it's a rite of passage for Seraphites. When you get to a certain age, you do that as a way of, like, rejecting modernity and accepting traditionalism or something. It's like
Proving
your
loyalty and all that.
it's like a ritual type thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the inclusion of them so much alongside the WLF. Like, I get that they did it so that you're like, you're supposed to think the WLF are 100% monsters.
Yeah.
Like, everyone in the WLF is a piece of shit. There's no redeeming qualities of any of them. They're this ragtag group of people who took over Fedra. Like, I feel like you're supposed to think of them the same way that you think of the people who took over the Kansas City QZ in season 1.
Oh, sure.
Where, like, they're ruthless. Like, you're supposed to
Right.
draw a parallel where you're like, there's no redeeming qualities of these people.
Got it.
But then, as the teaser for Abby, season 3 is showing, is like, the WLF is a much better organized and much more structured group than the Kansas City group.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll go much more into, like, how they're their own people with their own families and kids and nuances and everything, just looking to survive. Like, I'm hoping there'll be a lot of parallels between Seattle and Jackson, because that is illustrated a lot in the game. How there's, like, that's why I said earlier, like, the game is a lot about parallels and mirrors.
Yeah.
Like, Mel is pregnant, Dina's pregnant, Owen's the dad, Jesse's the dad,
Yeah.
Ellie and Abby fit in as these kind of external third wheels to both of those situations, It's kind of this, like, it mirrors itself.
Yeah.
So, let me see, I'm just flipping through my notes. There's one thing I did not like, and it's purely... right,
I was going to say, I think we're
Well,
past the
fake
baker's
math.
dozen at this point, Bob.
Right. There was an infected that is specific to Seattle that I was hoping they would include, and I'm really hoping it makes it into season 3.
Is
But
it the
there's a
coffee
new
barista?
infected called the no, kind of. I mean, so it's called a shambler, and it's basically like the bloater, except it like it's big like the bloater, but it
Shambles.
puts out this like acidic
Ew.
like spores.
Yee.
Oh, nice.
And it like burns people. Like when you see it in the
So this is
game,
the
like it
coffee
melts
guy.
the skin off somebody.
Oh.
And it's the whole lore of it is because there's so much humidity and moisture in Seattle that the fungus there mutated to a point where it like absorbed a bunch of that moisture and expels it, and like it's acidic.
Oh, wow.
So,
All right.
Dude,
but they're
that's
really
cool.
cool looking, and I was like, God, I wish there was like
Maybe
shamblers
in the
in this
next
show.
one.
I have a feeling.
I mean, they
they'll
might,
bring that.
you know.
Yeah.
Addie
They'll
had
probably-
a note that the stalkers were really freaky, and she
Oh,
loved
The
them.
stalkers in the game, like I fucking hate the stalkers. Can I just say, like, I hate them because similar to how Andy rage quit, like the way they introduce them in the game is literally like you're running from the WLF, you run into a building, Ellie pushes like a soda machine against the door, which I mean, talk about inhuman strength, and then she like turns around and she's like, okay, how do I get out of this building? You check one hallway, you're like, nope. You check the other hallway, you're like, nope. You go back to the first hallway and you just see the stalker like skitter up a wall and run away, and you're like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you go deeper in and you see there's 6 of them and they run off and they hide and you're just like, nope.
Yeah.
I think when I was playing it, I literally was like, it was late at night, I was playing it and I saw that and I was like, nope. I'm done.
Yeah.
Save,
Take a
turn
break.
off. Oh, not today, Satan. Absolutely not.
I think I mentioned in the last podcast about, like, once I saw them, I'm like, it's like the spider splicers from Bioshock.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
They're on the ceiling and they're terrifying.
But then, let me see. So anyway, they were really cool. One thing I thought was important to show, which was good, but then they didn't go all the way with it, which made me mad, is episode 6, the birthday gift.
Yes.
That is in the game, and it's almost verbatim to the game. The whole thing with space and with her going in the space capsule
Dinosaur and everything.
and her imagining like she's up in space and the whole dinosaurs and everything like that, and it shows a really lovely day for her and Joel. What wasn't in the game is the redemption of Seth, which makes me so goddamn mad. Like, Joel has to go to Seth for like a cake and has to bring him Legos and has to like get him baking, and then he's like, oh, you know, he's a homophobic piece of shit, but he bakes a good cake. It's
Right.
like,
That was before that, though.
no, but I know, but I'm also like, oh, well, for us, the viewer, can we not redeem
Yeah, let's not
people
redeem
like this? Like,
Sure.
fucking Christ.
That's-
And also, like, when they left, when Ellie and
I
them
mean, killing
left,
people
like,
is okay, but let's redeem the hate.
I draw the line at bigots, okay? Like, no, but like I was
sometimes
just
you gotta kill a
remembering,
bitch, you know.
right? No, like when Ellie and Dina are leaving Jackson, Seth meets them outside. He's like, "Hey there, kids! Like, here's my recommendations. Here's some guns and ammo." I'm like, did you not the day before just say some really horrific shit to these people?
Yeah.
Like, what the like? This was a choice, Craig. Like, anyway,
Yeah.
But in the purpose of the birthday gift flashback in the game is that after the really cute bonding between Ellie and Joel, Ellie wants to explore the museum more. So she jumps off into the water and gets into this other part of the museum, and Joel can't get in. So she's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll find a way around. And then you're walking around with your flashlight on, and you start seeing all over the walls a bunch of shit is spray painted, and it's like the rantings and ravings of like a crazy person, and you're like, oh shit. And I wrote down all the quotes because that's who I am. And let me see, I have them here. Yeah, so when you're walking around in the dark in this museum, spray painted on the walls, like one of the things just says, "We killed for them," and then another one says, "The people in the van, we locked them in and doused it with gas."
Jeez.
And then there's another one that says, "The kid who ran into the blast, I couldn't stop them." And then there's another one that says, "The stragglers who snuck into our camp, they just wanted food. The woman we tortured choked on her own blood."
Oh.
And then you're like, what the fuck is this? And then you come across a body, and it's lying there, and the guy who wrote all that stuff committed suicide. And Ellie leans down and picks up a Firefly emblem. Or no, she leans down and she's like, oh wow, that's crazy. She goes to the next area, and then she shines her light on the wall, and there's a huge painted Firefly symbol, and above it says liars. And it's to show that after Joel killed all the people in Salt Lake, the remnant people were scattered to the wind, and this dude had like a mental breakdown and killed himself in the museum. And so it's supposed to show like Joel's actions had consequence. You know?
Yeah.
And like he even wrote like a suicide note, which you pick up. That's where it is. He left a suicide note that you pick up and you read it, and he's like, "I thought coming back to this museum would make me happy. I used to come here with my parents before Infection Day. All it did was make me more angry. It made me think about all the atrocities we committed, and for what? Like, we had a cure and now we don't."
Yeah.
Like, and so it just really drives home like Joel is a morally gray person.
Well,
as
that's
well.
why Ellie confronts him then. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so by taking out that portion, and also with Ellie confronting him, there was a flashback. I was waiting for them to show it. Ellie leaves Jackson in the middle of the night, and she goes to Salt Lake, and she's digging around the hospital, and she's like looking for evidence, and she finds a tape recorder in the doctor's bag that has one of the Fireflies talking, and she's like recording messages, and she's like, most people have already left. Some people have gone to join other groups. There's maybe 5 of us left here. She's like, even if we did find the girl who was immune, it wouldn't do us any good. The only person who can make a cure is dead. And Ellie hears this, and so then it shows her, like, in the morning, just repeatedly listening to that part, where it's like, even if there was a cure, like, the person who could do it is dead, and then Joel rides up, and he's like, Ellie, like, what the fuck, you left? And then she confronts him directly, and is like, you told me there were more people.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't do this. And that's why she was so fucking pissed at him at the party and everything else, and then he died before she could make it better to him. So that's why it's heavy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But they didn't show any of that. They spent too much time fucking redeeming Seth. So anyway, tell me if I'm ranting too much. I apologize.
No, this is great. This is good stuff. This is what we invite you on for.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So, you know, the changes. The last of the changes that really, really, just truly and honestly pissed me off is when Jesse and Ellie sees the aquarium and she's like, that's where I need to go. And Jesse in the game is like, we have to go save Tommy. Like, that whole thing. Yeah. I had to write down, like, his exact quotes because I was so fucking flabbergasted. Hold on. He really wrestled my jimmies. Let's see.
That's the name of the episode right there.
Right.
Yes, he really rustled my jimmies. Let me see. I wrote down that it seems like Dina... I wrote down, what the fuck? Ellie, Dina, and Jesse are all acting like they hate each other, but they're stuck together because they have a kid. It's horrible. Anyway, this is what I do late at night when I'm off work. Right. So... Let's see. There it is. Okay. So then Ellie, like, speaking to the Ellie being dumb as fuck, when they're in the parking garage and they're on their way to go to see Abby where Abby's at. Yeah. And then the Seraphite, like, teenager gets cornered by some WLF. Right. Like, Jesse's like, Ellie, get down! And they hide behind dumpsters, but then Ellie puts her giant ass fucking head in the space between the two dumpsters, and is like, oh! And I was like, Ellie, really? So like, are you fucking kidding me? A, you're loud as fuck. B,
the ridiculous use of flashlights just killed me.
Come on, like, yeah, like, turn off your flashlight. But there was that. But then, basically, long story short, here it is. So they're talking about where they need to go, and they hear the gunshots, and they hear about the sniper. And Ellie says, what if Tommy's in trouble, to Jesse? And Jesse literally says, what if? We're all in trouble. Yeah. Like, who cares? Tommy will deal with it himself. And I'm like, that was such a betrayal of who Jesse, the character, was in the game. Because in the game, Jesse was telling Ellie, like, we have to go save Joel, or save Tommy. Yeah. And Ellie was like, fuck that, I have to go after Abby. And it felt like Jesse in the show didn't want to go after either. He was like, I can't die. My ex is pregnant. I'm going to be a dad. And that's probably why Ellie was like, no, you know what? Go. You don't steal my line. Yeah. You bastard. So, but then there was that whole scene was just really fucking awkward. And I even wrote down, what the fuck did they do to my guy Jesse? This is unforgivable. I said he doesn't give a fuck about Tommy. He's mad at Ellie. He's irritated with Dina. Like, what the fuck? Anyway.
Like, he just wants to go back home to Jackson, pretty much.
I know, and he was like, I even voted no on you guys coming out here in the first place. And I was like, then why did you go? Like, what the fuck? It betrays your character even in the show. Yeah. Like, just stay there. So then it seemed like also, like, for the first time in so many episodes, I even wrote 28 minutes into the final episode, all of a sudden Ellie suddenly cares about the revenge for Joel, and that's the whole reason why she's here. Right. And she says to Jesse, like, well, I have to go after Abby. And then he's all of a sudden, no, you don't. We need to leave. And it's like, you guys just flipped positions in the last 5 minutes. Like, what the fuck? Like, Jesse was like, we need to go take care of this. And Ellie's like, or we could just leave. And then he's like, fuck it, we're leaving. And she's like, but we have to get Abby. And I'm like, what?
We need to animate this rant.
Right.
This portion.
So then, you know, of course, Ellie, in the game, they split. Ellie goes into, like, abandoned shopping mall, kills a bunch of WLF, because of course she does, and then she steals a boat.
Yeah.
Fine, fair enough. In this, she goes down to the docks. She's possibly going to kill some WLF, but then she doesn't, because they all jump on boats and they take off, and they miraculously leave her a boat. I was like,
Right.
fair enough, you're running low on time, whatever, that's fine. In the game, Ellie just heads straight for the fucking aquarium. The boat capsizes, and she literally, while she's drowning in the water, says, fuck it, I'm gonna swim, and powers through to the island because she's so driven to kill Abby. In the show, the boat capsizes, she ends up like 30 nautical miles away, finds herself in Abby's story. Not to spoil anything, but the whole scene with Ellie, where she has the rope put around her neck by the Seraphites and she's strung up in a tree, is beat for beat Abby's story.
Oh, wow.
And why they had that happen to Ellie with... And what makes me the most mad is I'm like, at least have some more payout with it. But instead, it's like they string up Ellie and then they hear, like, the Horn of Gondor and they're like, fuck,
right.
Gondor calls for aid. We gotta roll, guys. You know, one guy's like, shit, I got my shift at the fucking Starbucks. I gotta run.
Right.
So then they all run off, you know, like Seattleites do.
School's out.
Right. But and then after that, Ellie, like, hits the ground and she's like, oh, that was weird. Gets back in her boat and goes to the aquarium. And I was like, what? Like, why did you even include that?
Right.
There was no point. Because that is a pivotal moment in Abby's story. It's not even like a small moment in Abby's story.
Yeah.
Like Nate mentioned that Abby, when she's in the theater at the end, has the ligature marks on her neck. It's because the Seraphites did it.
Yeah.
And that is like the crux of Abby's story. And they spoiled it by having it happen to Ellie for 3 seconds, and then she just fucked off back in her boat, and like suddenly the sea is calm and made it to the aquarium. And I'm
Right.
like, all right, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
So then she goes into the aquarium, doesn't kill Mel's dog, which I appreciated. The death of Mel and Owen did kind of bug me. And I couldn't quite put my finger on why they changed it. And then I saw a Reddit post, and it made me so fucking angry. And this, as Reddit posts are known to do, this will, I think, drive home my point that the writers purposely changed things, and I will say set Bella Ramsey up for failure. 100%. A direct quote from Craig, whatever the fuck his name is.
Amazing.
He says, quote, in the game, Ellie fights Owen, played by Spencer Lord, and then fights Mel, and it's only after Mel dies that her coat opens and Ellie realizes she's pregnant, Mason said. But for this, Ellie is not really capable of killing Owen. You look at Bella and you look at Spencer Lord. He's 6'4", and just incredibly imposing. A physical struggle wasn't going to go well, and she's not there to kill them, she just wants Abby. I remember saying to Neil, that as fucked up as that moment was in the game, I think it could be more fucked up and not be a tormentor. So, like, he literally was like, it's unbelievable that short Bella Ramsey will be able to take out a taller person. So let's just rewrite the whole scene. And it's like, did we not have an entire scene of Bella Ramsey jujitsu fighting a dude who was twice her size at the beginning of the season?
Right.
He was holding back,
Like,
to be fair.
Really? And apparently they even filmed, like, that whole scene was filmed with her doing it like in the game and taking him out.
Oh, wow.
And then taking her out. And then they changed it. And it's just like, what? And so that right there, I mean, I had a suspicion, like, I was like, I feel like they are changing so many things from the game, and I couldn't put my finger on if it was like Bella wasn't up to the task or if they felt like Bella wasn't up to the task. But that right there tells me that Bella had no say in the matter. It was the writers were like, no, that wouldn't happen. Like, she's just a little girl. She's still the little girl from Game of Thrones. And I'm like, the little girl from Game of Thrones would have fucked Owen up in a second. Like, Are you kidding me?
Well, I have a feeling it was probably down for time. Like, you can tell a really great story with a minute fight, right, that ends with it,
Right.
or you can have her accidental fart gunshot, right?
Right, exactly.
That takes everybody out.
Right. I mean,
Yeah, the lined up shot was a little bit. I was like, really?
Right.
That would never
100%.
happen in a million
Although-
years. Give me a break.
Yeah.
I mean, I really
The impact.
appreciated it. Yeah.
The impact for me, as
she's trying to walk her through how to cut the baby out of her belly as she's bleeding out.
yeah.
Was
Well,
pretty intense.
and I get the parallel. Like you're trying to show the other pregnant person in Seattle, right, next
Yeah.
to your almost girlfriend, right, and you're like,
Right.
oh, like I wanted that to. Oh, this could have easily been me.
Well, that's
Right.
what knocks sense into Bella.
Right.
To Bella. Jesus. Into Ellie and like convinces her, okay, we're going to go home.
Yeah.
And then
we could just call her
Abby shows
Belly. You know.
Yeah,
Right.
There you go. Slurky. Yeah. Mouth there. That's not good.
There's going to be a lot of horrible photoshops made of Belly.
Yeah. So I mean, so yeah, do you take the minute and show a fight, and then just have the reveal of the pregnant belly, or do you do the fart gun and use that time for? Sorry. and
I mean,
just-
to be fair, it was
Yeah.
a giant revolver that she doesn't really fire ever.
right,
So-
yeah. So,
Right.
but I think it does sort of speak more to the story that they were trying to tell, where you.
Right.
I mean, granted, like capsizing a boat in the weather, like, is enough to tell me not to get back on the boat, right?
Yeah. And she miraculously
Right.
didn't lose the gun that was in her pants.
And that's true, right?
that.
Yeah. And so and still had her aquarium
Backpack
card
and
to
everything
get
on.
in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, but I think that impacted the story more of where they were trying to say it was like so blinded by rage and hatred at this point that she needed to see some parallel of her situation. And
Right.
I think that this was the only way that they were going to bring that home, versus a fight, kickdown, and an accidental pregnancy. I don't know. You know what? I think talking through it, they could have easily done both, and I think it would have had the same impact.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I'm going to shut up.
No, I get what you're saying, but I mean, again, like, you bring up a good point of saying, like, it probably came down to time, but then my counterpoint to that is, like, if it came down to time, why include the whole Sarah fight stringing up Ellie just to drop her 2 seconds later?
No.
I mean, that whole thing was an additional, like, 5 minutes that
Yeah.
could have been shaved completely. Because
I think they're going to
Because
mirror that up
somebody's
with
kid-
something in season 3. They have to, right?
Right.
Well,
I mean, and that's what I'm like, when it happens in season 3 to Abby, it's going to be like, oh, we've seen this before.
Yeah.
And it's going to
more
be
parallels. Look out.
it'll be like less impactful. I mean, because I know there's, anyway, I can't talk about it until
You have
season
marks
3
on
is
your
out.
neck, too.
Right. I mean, maybe they're going to
twins.
bond over it, and then
Right.
they're going to, like, have this, like, like, Dina's going to wake up, and they're going to be braiding each other's hair.
I was
and
just
then Dina's
thinking
gonna be like,
that. Oh my
Yeah, we
god. it's
survived.
Dina's
the
gonna be like,
Sarah
come on,
Fights
guys. Revenge. Like, there was also one thing I wrote that I skimmed over this when I was trying to make a different point, and I was like, the writing in this season, there were two things where I was like, these writers are telling on themselves, and it's kind of gross. Is like, there was first the whole Abby telling Joel, like, and you are handsome and older and pretty sexy there, Joel. And then when the lady was talking to Isaac and he was like, fuck Manny, I have 20 Mannies, there's only one Abby. And
Right.
she's like, oh, do you love her? I mean, you wouldn't be the first old man to fall in love with a young lady.
Right.
I was like, what the fuck?
What is
I was
going
like,
on
dude,
here? Yeah.
this writer is straight up telling on themselves. Check this man's hard
I know,
drive.
right?
Like, what the fuck? I was like, oh my god. But so anyway, that's my second part of a 3-part series. I apologize
Yes.
so much. So those were the differences I did not like. How I would do it different. So this is purely just how I envisioned the season going before the season started. So I remember telling Nate at D&D, I was like, oh my god, season 2 is going to be amazing, because I know how they're going to structure it, because in my nerd brain I was like, okay, clearly they're going to do, like, first episode, Joel dies, it's going to be like the Dina, they go to the library, they, get their fuck on, they, smoke some weed, whatever. Next episode is going to be them going to Seattle, exploring Seattle, this, that, and the other. They're probably going to do some background stuff on these, like, kind of mentioned characters, but not really brought up in the show characters. And then it's going to end where it ended. I got one of those things right, which is that it ended where it ended. Why this season only had 7 episodes is really beyond me.
Yeah, bullshit.
Especially with how they handled it. But what I would do differently, so I would scrap, as cool as it was, there are cooler things you could have done with the budget and with the effects. I would have scrapped the battle for Helm's Deep, Jackson.
Yeah.
I would have scrapped the 3 months later, Ellie's out of the hospital, look at her blow a little ball up a tube and be like, there, my lungs are better. Like, why did you have to puncture her lungs in the first place? Like, what the fuck?
Right.
Because that also threw off the whole Dina being pregnant timeline. Because it was supposed to be, like, the day before the dance, Ellie finds out that Dina and Jesse just broke up. Dina kisses Ellie, they go off on their adventure together, Dina's pregnant. In the show timeline, it's Jesse and Dina break up, Dina kisses Ellie. Ellie gets knocked into a coma and her lung is pierced. 3 months pass.
Yeah.
Dina and Jesse be fucking. But then, all of a sudden, Dina's back on Ellie like, hey there, girly pop. Remember when we kissed 3 months ago?
Right.
Let's go on our trip. It's like, what? Like, what the fuck? That's why I was like, it didn't seem like a natural, like, progression to me. I would be like, what the fuck? Also, I really didn't like that they had Dina, like, feel a need to explain what bisexuality is when they were in the tent. Where she's like, I had to tell my mom, sometimes I like boys, sometimes I like girls. It's just how I am.
Boys.
I'm like,
Right.
I was like, yes, that's what a bisexual is. Anyways, moving forward. I was like, come on, we got WLF to kill here. Come on, let's do this. But, so I would have had, like, first episode, I would have started it out the way the game starts out, where it's Ellie waking up the day after the party.
Yeah.
And you hear about how Dina kissed her. She plays it off like, oh, she was drunk, whatever. Her and Jesse are more friendly. She goes on her trip with Dina. We see their relationship starting to grow. I feel like by not having the Ellie, Dina, I almost want to, well, I'm going to fucking say it, whatever. Not having the clam bake happen, I feel like really diminishes their future relationship. Because having them hook up, like, in the library...
New episode title.
It makes more sense pre-Joel's death.
If not for the clam bake. Is the new episode title.
I feel like that whole encounter... So that encounter happens in the show, but it happens in the theater.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm like, Ellie should be so consumed with revenge. Why is she, like, being cutesy with Dina?
Right.
It makes more sense to be like, prior to Joel dying, Ellie finally feels secure. She can let loose. She can, I'm not going to say anything else after that clam bake comment.
Yeah.
they can put on some Marvin Gaye, sip some champagne, smoke some weed, whatever.
Teddy Pendergrass.
It makes more sense, but then it felt like it felt jarring almost when they got it on in the theater, and not because Ellie had, like, the grime of post-apocalyptic Seattle on her hands. Right. And Dina's like, oh yeah, dirt dick me with those fingers. It's like, what the hell?
Jesus, Steve.
So, anyways, sorry.
This should. Why didn't you talk like this before?
I know, right?
We're gonna have a hard time picking the title for this episode.
Yeah.
You know what? It's to get people to stay to the end.
No,
it's like
yeah,
the post-credit scene.
Rum Regret After Dark title. That's what the.
Long story short, I would have cut all the stuff from Jackson. I would have put back in more of Dina and Ellie, like, escaping the WLF in Washington. Not necessarily like, here's a whole episode of her sneaking around and stabbing people, but, like, there were so many epic chase scenes in the game that were very theatrical.
Yeah.
They could have very easily done. I would have redone closer to the game how Jesse finds them, where he bails out Ellie, and then they're, like, buddy cop, like, escaping from the infected and escaping from the WLF. There's an epic car chase in the game where they're, like, they steal a WLF vehicle and they're driving around, like, try to get away. I know that what the show does best, different from the games, is exploring side character stories.
Yeah.
What I would have loved, there's a side character story in the Hillcrest section of the game where Ellie goes through this part of the town, and it's like after the WLF took over, but before, like, it's post Fedra, but like as WLF is still kind of fledgling. And there's a guy whose name is Boris, and you start finding all these notes from Boris and people in the town where it's basically like the people in town were like ratting out neighbors to the WLF about people who weren't supporting them.
Oh, wow.
And Boris's daughter gets taken by the WLF and killed, and he goes on like a one-man rampage where he starts killing WLF members left, right, and center. And you're finding out, like, through these neighbor notes, like, oh shit, like, Boris is like, he's trying to rally us against them. Like, we can't take on the WLF. Like, Fedra was awful, but these guys are worse. And then eventually you stumble across an infected, which is Boris. And he got locked in a building and killed. I would have loved to see an episode dedicated to that storyline, and then towards the end have Ellie walking through the neighborhood, seeing the destruction that was left after all of that, stumbling upon his body, taking him out, and then that's that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm being attacked by a fly, sorry.
It's those beard moths, man. You gotta be careful.
That's right.
I'm telling you, it's beard moths everywhere. So I would have done that. There's like, I would have done, and I hope they do in season 3, an exploration of who the Prophet is.
Yeah.
More info on that, more exploration of that. I loved, one of my favorite episodes in season 1 was the episode with Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
None of that was in the game. What was in the game was that Bill is this prepper asshole who booby-trapped a town, and his partner committed suicide because while his partner was trying to escape him because he was like, I'm fucking sick of you, he got bit, and then he killed himself. And it's like, that's not a good story. But then they changed it to be like, they were in love, they did this, they died together very romantically. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Change the story in those ways. The Joel's dad scene at the beginning of the one episode, where you get to know a little bit about Joel's dad.
Yeah.
I actually really liked that.
I thought that
and
was
I
great,
wish,
too.
like, at the beginning of each episode when they're in Seattle, there were so many storytelling elements from, like, the environment. Like, you stumble across a bank that, like, these people tried to rob the bank during the infection day. Like, they thought it'd be a good idea to break into the bank and steal all the money. And then, like, one of them locked the other one in the vault. And then, like, the guy wrote, like, a note. Like, beginning of the show, maybe 5-7 minutes before the title scene occurs, show those dudes robbing the bank during infection day.
Yeah.
And then, when the show starts, show Dina and Ellie stumbling upon the bank and being like, you see their bodies, you know? Do little things like that to really build out some of the storytelling that's in the game that isn't the direct story.
Yeah.
But instead they have Catherine O'Hara as a bad therapist and Eugene, like, being walked through the woods for half an episode, and you're like, none of this is really necessary. Just, why did you do this? Anyway, so long story short, they fucked with my guy Jesse, and I'm mad.
Justice for Jesse.
The magnum opus.
Justice for Jesse.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah. Steve.
All right, if you had to give a rating, Steve,
Yeah.
after all this, out of 10, knowing what you know, actually not knowing what you know, trying to just keep it to what happened in this season, how would you rate this season?
I would rate this, if you or a loved one has been affected by mesothelioma, then please call the following number, or you may be entitled to damages.
Oh,
now,
wow.
I felt like,
Emotional.
I honestly
Right.
felt like
Damage.
Season 2 wasn't inherently, like, it wasn't all bad. There were parts that were good, but the parts that were bad were glaring and numerous.
Yeah.
And again, you know what, I'll end with this. Justice for Bella Ramsey, she was done fucking dirty.
Yeah.
100%.
Like, the scene where she kills Nora shows that she could very easily play dark, brooding, revenge-filled Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
And they fumbled the bag on having that be her MO throughout the season, because they wanted her to be funny, charismatic, dad joke cracking Ellie.
Yeah.
And that's not what the season called for. And that's why Dina almost took the Ellie role and Ellie was the sidekick.
Yeah.
And Bella's getting all the shit. I don't care who the fuck looks more like Ellie. with the same script, they also would have failed.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that it's just a bunch of fanboys who are the same people who were making death threats to Laura Bailey for voicing Abby are the same people who are now making threats towards Bella because she's not, you know, oh, you don't look like the young nubile girl that I beat it to while playing the game. Like, fucking, you know. It just, anyways, neckbeards make me mad.
Right.
We can't have nice things.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they can't grow full beard, so then they're just mad,
Yeah.
you know, and I get it.
Yeah.
You know, you can't look luxurious like this.
I'm in the
And
room.
women never
Steve.
win.
I'm literally on the call.
Nate, you can look like this. All you got to do is just not cut your beard.
There you
Right.
go. Right.
That's the secret.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I
Everyone
have
says,
moths-
"How do I grow a luxurious beard?" I say, "Stop shaving."
Yeah.
Right. I have moths
It's-
in this.
it's-
If I go to that
It's
stage, I
that
might be in
It's
trouble.
that easy.
Yeah.
You just give up on life.
Good stuff, guys.
No, Steve,
Anyway.
your preparation, again, thank you so much for all of this breakdown, man. For someone who's played the games, that watched the show, to have so much to say just about each in contrast is fantastic. So, dude, for everything that you bring to the podcast, thank you so much, man. That was
Of course.
massive.
Yes. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoy joining you folks, and thank you for giving me the freedom to write my own path, much like Craig Manzin
Right.
had the freedom to write his mark all over this fucking season.
And you don't... you-
Both are spectacular shit shows.
Right.
There you
and
go.
and please don't redact our name from your social posts. You can put us out there. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. I didn't want to spoil what we were talking about before you guys released the episode. That's
no,
why.
Nice.
no, yeah, we don't care.
Okay, I didn't know.
No, all good. So, guys, tell us what you thought of The Last of Us Season 2. Do you feel as strongly as Steve does? Does anybody feel as strongly as Steve does about The Last of Us Season 2? So let us know on social. You can find us on Facebook at the Rum Regret Podcast. On all the socials, just look for the Rum Regret Podcast. We are there. Nate, where can they find you?
Yeah, Avid Gamer, AV1D Gamer on all the socials and your gaming platforms of choice. Join me in Elden Ring Night Rain, because holy fuck, it's hard as hell and super fun, but I was yelling like a neckbeard hates Bella Ramsey.
Joe, where can they find you?
At Joe Chickadee on the socials or at joechickadee.com.
And Mr. Soup, where can they find you?
I am Mr. Soup's House of Horror on Blue Sky. I am on Steam and as We Are Stevo, all one word. I am also on Riot's League of Legends, Legends of Runeterra, Teamfight Tactics as also We Are Stevo. And if you are on Steam and play Fallout 76, I am playing that all the damn time. So feel free to shoot me an ad and join up, and we can go kill ghouls together.
And he also posts as Justice for Jesse on Reddit. So,
Right? I'm gonna go claim that as fast as I can.
That's what
you can find me on Facebook at Crazy Drake. You can find me on X at Andrew Drake. And until the next time, we have friends everywhere. Watch fucking Andor. It's so good.
Happy birthday, kiddo.